Genesis 5, chapter 5, the Aleph Tav, verse 1, and made him, that's 853, but gets translated as him. Most of the time it doesn't get translated at all. In verse 2 of chapter 5, it gets this letter at the end, what we see as the beginning, but Hebrew goes from right to left. Gets translated as them. And then here before the them, there's that. So that's the actual, I'm glad we found this reference in chapter 5 too. That's the Hebrew word for them. But that one with the Aleph Tav gets them. But I believe there's something else going on that's been lost since the Babylonian captivity of the Jewish people, when their alphabet changed and they quit speaking Hebrew. I think they lost a lot of stuff. Can you imagine if no one spoke English for 400 years and all of a sudden they wanted to resurrect it? Are we pronouncing the words correctly? Because English is a very, very confusing language that taken rules from other languages. Hebrew stayed clean. The Torah was revered, and even though they weren't speaking that language, they were still being very precise in copying it. And a lot of the other Old Testament books. So here, prime example of why do they have two words that mean them or something like that. And this is that Aleph Tav. And it's correctly recognized as an Aleph Tav, as a 853. Verse 3, Seth again, his name gets an et before his actual name. And then he gets it again in verse 4. So there's definitely some importance there going. Verse 6, Enosh gets the Aleph Tav before his name. And he gets it again in verse 7. Verse 9, Canaan gets it before his name, that Enosh, the son of Enosh. And then he gets it again in verse 10. And Mahalalel, I'm probably butchering that, sorry. Verse 12, Canaan's son, he gets it, the et. Verse 13, he gets it again, Mahalalel. Verse 15, Jared gets it before his name. And he gets it again in verse 16. And he gets it again in I got two 5/16s in there. I don't know why. So he got it. Jared got it, just counting Jared's. He got it once in 15, once in 16. And Jared has Enosh, but that's it. He gets it twice, and Enosh gets it twice, second time in 19. And then Methuselah, 521, he gets it before his name. Making notes of stuff to check on my digital copy. 854, Aleph Tav by itself. Now in the Hebrew, you see these little dots and above and below, and these little asterisk looking things. That's not an asterisk, that's like a hash, not hash. But those little marks above and below the letters help readers of Hebrew to understand, the aleph can be pronounced like our A's. It can be a, it can be a, it can be, the different sounds the letter A will make depending on what letters are there next to it. And that silent E at the end. So if we say mate, M-A-T-E, that E is silent but makes the A a long A sound. And that helps them when they're reading to know how to pronounce that. So we see that even here it's pronounced et, and over here it's pronounced et, even though they're 853, 854, and that one gets translated as with, and this one doesn't get translated at all. It just skipped, but it's right before Methuselah's name, and this one's before God, or connecting Enoch and God. So the patterns that we'll see, I'm trying to point out some ones I've noticed or question. I'm not 100% it means this or that, but I'm just noticing the patterns to figure out why, and especially where it's not translated. What does that mean? And that's verse 22. So verse 24, again, we get that 854, and it's Enoch with God, and the at Enoch at God, Elohim. Ha Elohim, actually, here. So it's interesting. And then the 853 gets translated as him with that additional letter at the end. So you can see the difference between, we got like 3 dots underneath the aleph there, and then we got that little thing above the aleph and nothing below. And the tav gets that little thing below, where this one has nothing. So looking for patterns, that was verse 24. Verse 25 is before Lamech. Verse 26, again before Lamech. And then verse 29, before his name, Noah. Noah means comfort. The names are important. The genealogies that are so boring and tongue-tying to us English speakers, we're missing something. I can't. There's a clue in the names from Adam to Noah that I find fascinating, and that's another study. So, verse 30, he begot Noah. So Noah gets it again. And then, verse 34, again, another study. He was 500 years old and begot. The verb comes before the subject in Hebrew. So here we have in the English, and Noah was 500 years old, and Noah begot, and the blanks are where the aleph tavs, the ets are, but all 3 of them get that. But only the third one is translated as and, with that little letter added to it. So all 3 got the et, all 3 of his sons. And that's the end of chapter 5.